Hey, Jim Roman here, and welcome to another episode of the Jim Roman Show, where we help you build a better business to build a better life. Want to welcome you. To our final episode of our series. This month, we've been doing the Balanced series. I believe that if you create a more balanced business, you can have more of a balanced life. If you've been joining us, there are 8 elements to the balance, each letter representing a principle or best practice that we have found in working with hundreds, if not thousands of companies on how to build a better business, build a better life. In today's episode, we're talking about the last 2 letters of balance, and that is employees and delivery. And I don't know any other 2 principles that go really, really well together. So I'm super excited to share those principles with you today. For those of you, this is our first time here, welcome. Welcome to our show. I typically talk for 20 minutes on a particular topic in hopes that you would be inspired and encouraged to take action on those principles. We ask also that if you like what you see, please feel free to like, share, and follow us, as well as please reach out to me through all the social media platforms at Jim Roman Online. I'd love to stay connected to you and seeing you grow in business as well as in life. So let's jump into today's episode. I have a lot of notes here on my desk that I'll be running by you. So we're going to start off with the letter E in balance, how to have a more balanced business. The E stands for employees. And as we've done in the other episodes, we've been talking about 3 levels of each letter, 101, 201, and 301. I don't know if you're a new business, an existing business, no employees with hundreds of employees. I want to serve you the best of my abilities. So I'll be talking about those principles based on size, industry, and giving you examples of people who apply these principles. You should stay tuned for next month. We have a special treat where we're going to be sharing success stories, case studies of actual companies we worked with in hopes to give you a tip, a trick, or strategy or tactic to help you go to the next level. So again, let's jump into today's episode. Today's letter we're going to be talking about is E for employees. So there are different levels of looking at your employees or your team members. Level 101 when it comes to employees and building a more balanced business is I think you should have employees or team members. You should never, ever build a business by yourself. I always say, don't be a Lone Ranger. In fact, Lone Ranger didn't do it by himself. He had Tonto and Silver. So I would always encourage you to get other people to be a part of your journey. Now that could be a virtual employee, a virtual assistant. It could be vendors and softwares and solutions, but never, ever do this alone. And I find a lot of times the reason why people don't find good employees or good team members because they don't know how to vet out the bad members. And what we'll be talking about in delivery, we'll be talking about processes. And one of the processes to finding great employees is vetting out the wrong employees and having a hire process before you hire them, a process during and after. And we've talked about that in many episodes to include our Coffee with a Coach. And I highly recommend you check out those episodes on hiring people. But I definitely believe that you should have some type of assistance. The second reason I think people don't hire anybody, they don't do the math on how much it's going to cost. You could easily get a team member, a part-time person for as little as $250 a week or $1,000 a month. And for some people, that's just one more sale that you can make to pay for that person. I have a team of people where some people are just $500 a month and some people are thousands of dollars a month. And then you can use independent contractors who cost you hundreds of dollars a month. So I highly recommend from a 101 perspective is get team members to join your team, figure out a best way of hiring them, finding them, attracting them, and onboarding them. The second level of employees is we talked about in previous episodes is the EML model. If you have a team member or 2 on your team, are they have an employee mindset? Do they have a manager's mindset? Or do they have a leadership mindset? And that's important. In fact, a lot of owners have the employee mindset. I got to do it all myself. And we talked in the previous episode at a 201 level is you want to be able to understand that there's an employee mindset, there's a manager's mindset, and a leadership mindset. Which one are you? An employee does the work, they do the job, and that's it. A manager is good at managing themselves and starting to manage others. And then leaders are people who want to be followed and are followed by other people. And so understanding those different levels and those different levels of mindset or different principles that go with that. What in employees' perspective, I would make sure I had a job description, a accountability checklist, and key KPIs, key performance indicators. And then from a manager's perspective, I want to know that they can manage themselves effectively, as well as manage other people on my behalf. And then leaders are the ones that can run the business when I'm out on vacation, traveling around the country, or just want to take a break. And leaders help other people grow and develop. But I really want to talk about today in regards to employee level is you as a leader level. And that's the 301 level. And it ultimately comes down to, do you know what your employees want? There's an article I reference very often called What Employees Want. I got this from Strategic Coach. It's a great resource on things that employees want. And a lot of times people don't know what their team members want and how can they create an environment for their employees to win. I wrote an article on that. You can go to my website and my blog at jimromanonline.com and click on the blog. And it talks about creating an environment for your team to win, for your employees to win. And a lot of times you would call this corporate culture. In this article, it talks about the employees want to know the vision and direction of the company. They want to know what they're doing is making an impact, not only in the business, but in the community. They want to contribute in meaningful ways. They want to know that they're making a difference for you and your company. And the list goes on and on. If you like a copy of that, post in the comments below you would like a copy of the What Employees Want article, and then I'll also link that to our blog. But what I'm ultimately getting at is, are you creating an environment for your employees to win? Are you mentoring, developing, inspiring, and encouraging your people to want to do better? I can't tell you the countless people that I talk to when I go to owners and managers and I ask them about an employee or a team member, and they say that employee's not performing. My first question is, do you know that employee's goals and aspirations personally as well as professionally? I'll say that again. A lot of times when a team member or employee of a company is not performing, and people come to me and says, Jim, as my business coach, what do I do? The first question I ask again is, do you know their goals and aspirations personally as well as professionally? And the answer typically is no, or I don't remember. Well, these are the things that I use to encourage and inspire and engage my team to want to do more, to do better, to take ownership. And I don't think that we do that enough. I don't think that we take the time to be able to develop our people, mentor our people so that they want to do more. Because according to this article, and I have found that this article, what employees want, they want to know they're making an impact. They want to know the vision and direction of the company. They want to know that what they're doing is making a difference for you, your company, and your community. And so when it comes to the employee principle or pillar of the balance approach, I'd be asking myself, number one, do I have somebody who's going along the journey with me? And if not, why? Am I using my past experience for not hiring new people? Or do I not have a process vetting out bad people? So I think I'm only going to get bad people going forward? Or am I a control freak? It reminds me of a couple of stories. One of the stories is working with a mortgage company, a mortgage gentleman, actually, loan officer. I will call him William for conversation's sake. And I told William, if it were me and I were you, I would take the George Carlin approach to building a business within your mortgage business. George Carlin, interesting enough, joked about how he would build a company by getting an assistant. And then he would get an assistant for his assistant, and then an assistant for his assistant, and so on and so on. Then he become a CEO of an assistant, a bunch of assistants. I laughed at the time, but I didn't get the value of that and having other people help you get where you want to go. So I told this to William, and William says, Jim, you don't understand. I don't own the mortgage company. I said, I know you don't, but you don't own your life either, because you're constantly doing paperwork and you're building relationships and you're doing closings and all that other stuff. And I'm just encouraging you to consider hiring your own assistant. Either get the company to contribute to that, do that, or do it yourself. It took him a while to think about that and process through that until 1 year later, I get a text. Jim, I did what you told me to do. Now, this is a year later. I told William a lot of things to do. I didn't know exactly what it was. And I called him up and he goes, I finally heard you. I finally got an assistant to do the paperwork so that I can continue to build the relationship with my realtor contacts. And I couldn't be happier. It affected his marriage. It affected his life. It affected everything. And I got to tell you, that brought joy to my heart that one, he listened, but more importantly, the results that he got. And so again, if I'm looking at a team, I would want to build a team, even if it's a team of one, a half of one, or two or three, because I promise you, you can make a bigger impact and you can reach more people if you do that. Now, say you have a couple of team members, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Are you developing them from an employee mindset past the manager's mindset to the leadership mindset? And if not, I highly recommend that you consider doing that. Some of the tools that you would use to be able to do that for the employee mindset is having a job description, accountability checklist, and KPIs, key performance indicators. Under the manager, teach them how to manage themselves, manage their time, managing their tasks. I'm reading a book right now, which is around here somewhere, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Awesome book. I'm halfway through it. Focusing on one thing is going to make the biggest difference for you. And it talks about that in depth. And then the leadership mindset. What am I doing to develop them as leaders? Am I mentoring, encouraging them, inspiring them, and knowing their goals and aspirations in the process? One of the books that I talk about in that one is Leadership Meets the 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. What I love about this book in developing my leaders is it talks about the 4 types of employees you typically have. The one who just started and is super excited, all the way over to the person who's been around for a while, and that they pretty much got it set, but you got to make sure that they're still staying happy in their own way, and everybody in between. I've also talked about the 4 types of salespeople. If you're developing your sales team, there's 4 types of those types of people that you want to manage and mentor to the next level. So finally, I want to leave you with this last element, and I want to look at this note, because ultimately, if you can create an environment where your employees can win, your team members can win, it's a world of difference. I promise you, if you do this, you will have more time, you'll have more control, you'll have more quality in your business. Some of the books that I've read on this very thing is Onward by Howard Schultz. I love this book because he talks about creating an experience, which I'll talk about in the D section of today. Delivering happiness, we'll talk about as well. Ultimately, if you can create an environment where people want to come to work, want to work for you, want to knock it out of the park, then you're going to have a better business, which what? Builds a better life. Developing employees, finding employees, training employees is not easy, but in the end, it makes the biggest difference. So I highly encourage you to get some, develop some into those leaders that you want. Is there anything else I want to talk about that? The only thing I would also add on that, which we'll talk about in the D as well, is how you can make your employees or team members win is number one, how you find them, vet them, train them, onboard them, develop them, and encourage them. Sounds simple, but makes a big difference. So that's the E in balance. Now the final letter is D for delivery. I want to come back to these 2 books, Zappos, Delivering Happiness, and Onward. D, delivery, is about creating an experience for your customers. You've heard me mention in the past, Michael Gerber talks about in his book, E-Myth, that you want to have an experience for your first customer to be the exact same experience as your 1,000th customer. You don't want to be winging it, because then you won't get that momentum, you won't get that raving fan, and you won't get the revenue that comes from the referrals from people being happy. So delivering a great experience makes the biggest difference. And I believe if your team members, your employees can deliver on that experience, game changer, next level kind of thinking. We talk about going to the 9 stages of business, talk about going up that mountain really fast. These 2 will have that happen. So what do I mean by delivery? Ultimately, I'm talking about processes. What processes can you put in place that'll make the biggest difference? One of the first things I suggest people do in creating that experience, to create that delivery in balance, is to map out their process. We call a process map. From the moment someone comes in contact with your business, all the way down to closing the business and creating raving fans. I was first introduced to this concept by Chuck Blakeman with the Crankset Group out of Colorado. Before, I used to run my business in my head, and I was thinking how I would help a landscaping company, a real estate company, a property management company. And it was all going around in my head. And Chuck introduced me to process mapping, where I took what's in my head and put it down on paper. And it really made a big difference. In fact, it freed up my thinking, because now I could see it down on paper from the moment I market my business, I advertise my business, to someone's interested in my business, to answering the phone, qualifying the prospect, closing the prospect, delivering, invoicing, and then repeating the process. If you've not processed out your business from A to Z, I highly encourage you to consider doing that at a one-on-one level, just mapping that out. At a 2-on-1 level, I would then suggest you take one of these boxes, any one of these boxes, maybe one that's bottlenecked, one that's holding you back, and process that out. For example, there are several processes that we've worked with clients in the past that made a big difference. Number one of those processes, how you answer the phone and vet the prospect. If you're fortunate enough to be getting a lot of phone calls from people wanting your services, wouldn't it be awesome if you can vet out the bad leads from the good leads? In other words, those are going to waste your time to those who are going to now save you time. I'll remember a time when I was working with a landscaping company. Someone called up and said, hey, I need landscaping services. Can you give me a quote? Sure, we'll get you over to the salesperson. The salesperson will come out, measure and everything else and give you a quote. Salesperson gets the call, same thing happens. They go out and they look at the house and they go, we can't help them. We don't do these kind of houses. Do you know how many calls that they went on that were not in their target market, all because they just answered the phone, went on the appointment and found that out? But what we were able to do is to teach them to be able to vet them out a little bit better so that they can best serve the people calling them. And so what they would do is they would have someone call and say, I need landscaping services. Great, no problem. We'd be more than glad to help you. Just have a couple of questions we'd like to ask you to make sure that we give you to the right salesperson to make sure that you're taken care of. Great. Tell me where you live, what's your address, tell me what you want to get done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're filling out this form. And at the very end, they realize this is not in their target market. And they would say, well, our services start at X amount per month and go up from there. Do you think that will fit in your budget? And 9 times out of 10, they go, oh, no, no way. Because this particular landscaping company specialized in $1 million homes and above. Not that they wouldn't do stuff smaller than that, but their specialty was $1 million homes and above. And so they were going on a lot of sales appointments that really weren't going to work out for them in the long run, and if they could get them out. So my question to you is, what are you doing to qualify the calls that come in so that you know that they're a fit for your company? And those who are not, can you refer them to somebody else that would be better for them, maybe in a different size target market, or just have different specialties than you do? So that's one process that I would take from the 40,000 foot view of the map, and I would vet out my phone calls. Another one would be, how do you onboard new clients? An onboarding process. What is your process? How do you welcome them? How do you get them involved? How do you get them engaged? How do you get them started? You know, a lot of times people just say, welcome, thank you for the check, and then they wing it. I think a second thing you could be doing is an onboarding process. I remember working with a construction company where there were 2 owners of the company. One owner would do the sales, and the other owner would deliver on the construction side. The challenge was that the salesperson knew everything about the project that the other owner did not. And when they handed over the folder, the second owner was like, well, I'm missing stuff. And so this guy had to jump in to help him with that. And that did not go very well. Micromanaging each other, micromanaging owners is not a good thing. So we suggested a process to create that delivery, to create that experience, was to have a handoff process. In other words, when you give somebody your folder, inside there is a checklist that says, do I have the name of the property, the name of the owner? Yes, check, check. Do I have the diagrams or the photos of the property? Yes. Do I have the measurements? Yes. Do I know the product they want to use? Yes, yes, and yes. So that when I hand over the folder, the operations person, the person who gets the work done, would go, yes, 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 yes. I have everything that I need. Everything makes sense. They sign off of it. Now they have ownership of that. So now the salesperson can go back to doing what? Selling. And then the operations can do what? Get the work done. For some of us, there is not that handoff process. And I think that's a challenge. In my business, there's an onboarding process. When someone becomes a coaching client to us, we have a process that we have laid out. Number one, we welcome them with the welcome email. We charge their card or cash their check to make sure they're officially paid. Then we send them a registration survey. Then we get them scheduled for their coaching call or class. They get set up into our electronic systems, to our coaching software, our thank you software, and everything else. And then it comes back to me to make sure that all of that is done so they're properly onboarded. Their appointment is confirmed with their coach. Their coach is now given that information so they can coach them properly. And the big process goes from there. We didn't always have that process because I was the only coach. I was the only team member. So I managed all of that. But as we grew and we expanded across the country, we needed a process. And it made a world of difference, especially when you skip a step and you realize you skipped that step, it bites you in the end. And we don't want that to happen. Again, another process you could be doing is hiring process. We talked in previous episode is, what do you do before? What are the steps? What do you do during hiring somebody? The steps. And more importantly, what do you do after you hire those people? Steps. And then how do you orientate them? Steps. How do you onboard them 3, 6, 90 days later, 6 to 12 months later? Do you have a process for that? Because ultimately, if you have processes put in place, your people will perform, and you can then have the business you've always wanted. You can have the life you've always wanted. So those are just some examples of things that you could be doing. You could do processes for creating raving fans. So once someone becomes a client, what can you do to woo them? You can turn your employees into raving fans and their 1-year anniversary. What's the process for that? I'm reading a book called Power of Moments. Love this book. I'm a third way through the book, and the Power of Moments talks about when you onboard an employee, is that an up experience or a down experience? They call it a peak, right? Is it a peak experience when you bring on this new employee? I have one of my clients that actually, when they bring on a new employee, they make a big to-do about it, a big to-do about it. In the book, Power of Moments, they talked about having an onboarding specialist for bigger companies. I love that concept. An onboarding specialist, you have the hiring specialist, you have the owner, you have the manager, but what if you had somebody on your team or someone you contracted out that was in charge of their onboarding experience of your employees? They did this overseas for John Deere, a tractor company, and it was a huge, huge success, huge success. So hopefully you're getting the point that putting processes in place, creating that experience for your customers to rave about you, your people will love it, you will love it, and the results are going to be amazing, 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 amazing. So as we finish up again today, please comment below what you're getting out of today's session. I would look at the comments after we end the recording to make sure I serve you all. If there's any particular topic you want us to cover in the future, please let us know that. We would love to do that. We have a lot of special things happening in May and June, so stay tuned for that. But in closing, I have a couple of last thoughts that come to mind, just random on the topic of employees and delivery. It has been my experience in working with strategic HR consultants that if you develop your employees, it develops your business. And investing in your employee is readily investing in your future. And it's probably one of the best things that you can do. I didn't always believe that. One of the funny things I say to one of my strategic HR coaches is, why can't employees develop themselves? Well, because it just doesn't work that way. But if you develop them and you help inspire, encourage them, and engage them, I promise you, it will come back tenfold, 20-fold, 100-fold. It isn't easy, but there are a lot of resources out there. There's a book, The 5 Dynamics of a Team, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, why employees don't do what they do. And then there's delivering excellence, like the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, Zappos, and Nordstrom's. I believe that if you create that environment for your team to win, everybody wins. Everybody wins. Well, hopefully you got something out of it. Again, if you liked what you saw, please follow, like, and share. As always, follow me on all the social media platforms at Jim Roman Online. I can't thank you for being a part of this series. Balance is such an important topic to me. As you know, it's something we created, invented, discovered, uncovered years ago, and has been making a difference in helping people build a better business so they can build a better life. Again, I'm Jim Roman. Remember, the more you know, the more we grow. Have a great day, and God bless. See you soon. Bye.